Welcome back to Learning with Hanit. In today's video, we're going to finish working on our Regents packet from the January 2024 Algebra 2 Regents, and we're going to begin by solving question number 13. Before we get started, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Comment down below if you have any questions about any of the questions that we do in this video, or you can comment down below what topics you would like to see future videos on. With that being said, let's get started. So, question 13, this equation is equivalent to P equals 210x 4/3, y 7/3. So, in order to begin this problem, there's two main rules we need to remember. We need to remember A to BC, right? This is going to be our root. And this is going to be our exponent or our power, if we write this in the root form. And we need to also remember that we want two values under the same thing, we have to make sure that we get them to have the same roots and the same exponents. So the first rule that we're going to use is here. So it says 210x 4/3 y 7/3. So in order to change this, it's going to become cube root of x to the 4th, cube root of y to the 7th, 210. Right? We have this part so far. The reason why answer choice 1 cannot be right is because at this moment they have different exponents, and the 210 does not have a root. So we know that answer choice 1 cannot be it. Now let's keep going. So we do that part, and then we're going to apply this rule right here. We're going to break down our cube root of x to the 4th into two parts. We're going to break it down into the cube root of x and the cube root of x to the 3rd. These two are still equivalent to x to the 4th, because if we have cube root of x times cube root of x to the 3rd, we're going to add our exponents, and so 1 plus 3 is still going to give us 4. We're going to do the same thing to the cube root of y to the 7th, and it's going to be cube root of y times the cube root of y to the 6th. Again, if we add these two, multiply these together, we add the exponents, we're going to get y to the 7th. Now, why we did this is that so we can get these two under one common root. And so we can see that this one right here, I'm going to do it in a different color, and this one right here can be simplified. If we write these back into fractions, we're going to get x to the 3/3. We're going to get x to 3/3, and here we're going to get y to the 6/3. And when we simplify that, we get x and y squared. So now we want to rewrite this. So we're going to rewrite it as 210 x y squared and the cube root of x y. Again, we are able to do this part right here because now the cube root of x and the cube root of y are now the same. They have different variables, but they're the same. They have the same root and they have the same power. And so that's how we group them together using, these are the power rules. And then we simplified our x to a cube root of x cubed, and we simplified our cube root of y to the 6th power. And our final answer is going to be answer choice 3. This question is a little tough question, so if you are confused, please replay this part once again. Question number 14 reads, the average cost of a gallon of milk in the United States between the years of 1995 and 2018 can be modeled by the equation P of t equals negative 0.0004 t cubed plus 0.0114 t squared minus 0.0150 t plus 2.6602, where pt represents the cost in dollars and t is time in years since January of 1995. During this time period, in what year did pt reach its maximum? So in this question, they're basically asking us the peak points of our graph. And so in order to do so, we're going to be using our calculator. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to your calculator, you're going to go to y equals, and you're going to type in your equation. Very carefully. Make sure that you do not make any mistakes with your numbers, because if you do, you're going to get a totally different answer. So you type it into your calculator, double check that you put everything correctly, especially because this problem has a lot of zeros. It is important that you double check. So after we double check, we're going to click graph, and you want to have your graph zoomed out. So now that we have it graphed and we do have it zoomed out, and we want to trace the maximum. So what we're going to do is you're going to do second trace. You're going to scroll down to where it says maximum. You're going to do your left bound, so on the left side of the curve. You're going to do your right bound, the right side of the curve. And then you're going to estimate and guess where it is. You're going to click enter, and it's going to give you that your maximum is at x equals 18.317596. Okay? So that is x. This x is where it reaches the maximum. What we want to do is we're going to take this x value right here, and we're going to add this to 1995 in order to find the year that it reaches its maximum. Because we know that its range is from 1995 and 2018, and it reaches its maximum 18.317596 years after 1995. And so when we do that, and we do it in our calculator, we do 1995 plus 18.317596, we're going to get 2013.317596. So we could, off the bat, eliminate answer choices 1 and 4. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Many people will be like, oh, well, we're in the middle of 2013, so technically it's 2014. Incorrect. What you want to do is you're going to select answer choice 2, 2013, because we're still in 2013. We're in the middle of 2013. We haven't hit 2014 yet. We're still in 2013, so our answer choice is going to be number 2. Now we're question number 15. Question number 15 says, the temperature F in degrees Fahrenheit after T hours of a roast put into an oven is given by the function F equals 325 minus 185 e to the negative 0.4 t. What was the temperature of the roast when it was put into the oven? So, in order to solve this question, we're going to do this by hand. But first, what is the temperature when it's put in the oven? Well, we know T represents the hours after the roast was put in the oven. So if the roast was just put into the oven, then T equals 0 because no time has passed on the roast. So if you plug it into our equation, F equals 325 minus 185 e to negative 0.4 times 0. So when we plug that in, we get F equals 325 minus 185 e to the negative 0 power. Okay, and so then we're going to plug it into our calculator. So do 185 e to the negative 0. We're just going to get 185 because anything raised to the 0 power is 1. So e raised to the negative 0 is just 1. So we bring that down, and we do 325 minus 185, and we get F equals 140. Our answer choice is number 4. Okay, so question number 16 says, the roots of the equation 0 equals x squared plus 6x plus 10 in simplest a plus bi form are. So, saying that in simplest a plus bi form, we know that we're going to have imaginary roots, and therefore we want to use the quadratic equation. quadratic formula, I'm sorry. If you want to get a refresher, make sure you check my video on the quadratic formula, where I talk about using the quadratic formula with real roots and imaginary roots and the understanding of the discriminant of the quadratic formula. So to solve this, we're going to use the quadratic formula, which is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we'll just start plugging it in. X equals negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 6 squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we're going to simplify. X equals negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 40 over 2. This, I'm going to move it up here. X equals negative 6 plus or minus the square root of negative 4 over 2. Negative 4 is imaginary, and in order to split that up, we know that the square root of 4 times the square root of negative 1, I'll just move that over so it's better for you guys to see. Negative 4 times negative 1, this has a square root of 2, this is just I, so we're going to rewrite this as x equals negative 6 plus or minus 2i over 2. When we simplify this, x equals negative 6 divided by 2 is 3. Negative 3 plus or minus 2i divided by 2 is just I, and choice is going to be number 3. This question is straightforward, but you need to be really careful remembering when to change your i's, remembering the quadratic formula, so you need to do it slow and steady. Now, question number 17. Question number 17 says, which equation does not represent an identity? In other words, which answer choice is not equal to each other? So, if we take answer choice number 1, it says x squared minus y squared equals x plus y, x minus y. If we were to FOIL this out, this would be x squared, this would be negative yx, this would be positive yx, and this would be negative y squared. And if we simplify, we get x squared minus y squared, and we know this shows an identity because it simplifies correctly. Answer choice 2, you do the same thing. In the answer choice 2, we don't even have to solve it, because when we look at it, x minus y squared is just rewriting the x minus y twice. So now you have a binomial. So we know answer choice 2 has an identity. Answer choice 3, x plus y squared equals x squared plus 2xy plus y squared. Again, if we were to FOIL it, or we do the trick. So x squared is just x squared, and then x plus y is just, like, if you multiply together, that's xy times 2 is 2xy, and then y squared is just y squared. And this part right here, a lot of people will be confused. So what you're trying to do is you're going to kind of multiply these together and then multiply it by 2. So you have xy together times 2 would be 2xy, because it's the same thing if we do x plus y times x plus y. This would be x squared, this would be yx, this would be yx, and this would be y squared. So that would just be x squared plus 2xy plus y squared. Same thing. So we know answer choice 3 is an identity, and the only answer choice that fails is answer choice number 4. And so answer choice number 4 does not represent an identity. So this was just a process of elimination kind of question. Question number 18. So I zoomed out for this question so we can see it in its totality. Two studies were conducted to estimate the proportion of teens who use social media at least once per day. Based on these results, it was determined that approximately 75% of teens use social media at least once per day. What is the best explanation of the difference in the results between the two surveys? So, rule to remember, the more samples that you take, the more accurate it is. because it's becoming more reflective of the population. You're taking constant more samples from different groups, from different areas. You're getting closer to the accuracy and to having a sample that represents the population. But if we're only taking a small number of samples, that's not representing the entire population. So we automatically know that answer choices 1 and 2 would be incorrect because they're saying that the smaller sample size will provide a more accurate estimate. And we know that the rule says the more samples that we take, the more accurate one is, the closer one gets to representing the population. Now between answer choices 3 and 4. 3 says the larger sample size of 50 teens results in a smaller margin of error and should provide a more accurate estimate. And then 4 says the larger sample size of 50 teens resulted in a bigger margin of error, and should provide a more accurate estimate. So these two choices, we're testing between whether it's going to be a smaller margin of error or a bigger margin of error. If we look at our graph, we see how everything is so small. And so the spacing between everything is so small, so we have a small margin of error. Whereas if we look at the sample of 100 of 5 teens, so we're taking the same samples, but the sample size is bigger. So we're getting more samples, more people in the samples. We're doing 100 samples each, but the first sample only took 5 teens, second sample took 50 teens. So the bigger the sample size, how many people are in the sample, the more accurate it is, and the smaller margin of error that we get. Because if we compare the difference between each and the margin of error that they have, the sample of 5 teens has a bigger margin of error than the samples of 50 teens. So we know our answer choice is 3. This question is you have to know definitions. So this question is not really math type, but you have to know the basic rules of statistics, saying that, well, if our sample size is bigger, we're going to be more representative of the population. Therefore, we're going to be a little bit more accurate. And because we are getting these larger samples, the proportions are going to vary much less because there's more groupings in between. So we have a smaller margin of error. So we are nearing the end of the test. Question number 20. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so that we can see the question better. Question number 20 says, Roberto is buying a car that costs $22,000. After a down payment of $4,000, he borrows the remainder from a bank, a 6-year loan at 6.24% annual interest rate. The following formula can be used to calculate his monthly payment. So they give us the formula, and the question asks, Robert's monthly payment will be. So they give us all of these terms in the equation in order to solve. So we know that it costs $22,000, but a down payment of $4,000. He borrows the remainder from a bank in a 6-year loan at 6.24% annual interest. Annual interest for a 6-year loan. And this is the formula that we're going to use. So first, how do we know the monthly payment? That's what we're trying to find. The loan amount, the car costs $22,000. He pays or does a down payment of $4,000, and he borrows the remainder from a bank. Well, that means that he's borrowing $18,000 from the bank. He's borrowing $18,000 from the bank. Now, the monthly interest rate. Well, it says that we are at 6.24% annual interest rate. So to make it monthly, we're going to do the 6.24% divided by 12, or we're technically doing 0.0624 divided by 12, which is going to give us 0.0052 as our monthly interest rate. Then for T says time in minutes, so how long he's paying this. Remember, this is a 6-year loan. If it's a 6-year loan and we're multiplying that by 12 for 12 months in a year, we know that it's going to be a 72-month loan. So just like that, we figured all the parts of our equation. Now we just plug it in. So R is going to equal 18,000 times 0.0052 divided by 1 minus 1 plus 0.0052 to the negative 72 power. And when we do that, we get our answer choice to be, do that on the calculator, we're going to get 300.355442. And so when we round it, we're approximately at about $300.36, which is going to be answer choice 2. So again, this question requires a lot of careful reading, because you have to remember that it says it costs $22,000. He puts a down payment of $4,000. He borrows the remainder using a 6-year loan at a 6.24% annual interest rate. So all of these parts you have to be careful of. They give you the formula, but you just have to apply it correctly. You have to apply your numbers correctly to your formula. Now for question number 21. Given tan theta equals negative 4/3, where pi over 2 is less than theta, and which is less than pi, what is the value of secant theta? So first, tan theta is always going to be equal to what? Opposite over adjacent, right? Secant theta is the reciprocal of cosine, meaning instead of doing adjacent over the height, we're going to be doing height over the adjacent. Well, we know that if we have our unit circle, because this is important to know which number, the 4 or the 3, is going to get the negative sign, that if we have our unit circle, we know that here, xy, here is negative xy, here is negative x negative y, here is x negative y. And you'd be like, Haneen, why are you doing that? Well, we're told that tan theta of negative 4/3 occurs when pi over 2, so where we have pi over 2 and pi, where theta is greater than pi over 2, but theta is also less than pi. So we know our triangle forms right here. And so if our triangle forms right here, we know that our 4 is going to be positive and our 3 is going to be negative. Because according to the unit circle, when we are in between pi over 2 and pi, our cosine is negative and our sine is positive, because x is cosine, y is sine. And that tells us that the adjacent side of tan theta is going to be negative 3, and the sine of tan theta, or the opposite, is going to be 4. And given this, and we know that it's a right triangle, we can find our height. We should know that this is a 3, 4, 5 triangle, so our height is going to be 5. If you didn't know that, you could use the Pythagorean theorem. You're going to do negative 3 squared plus 4 squared equals c squared. So that is 9 plus 16 equals c squared, which is 25 equals c squared. Square root that, and you get 5 equals c. And we know that is c. Now we apply it to our secant. And when we apply it to the secant, well, we know now that our hypotenuse is 5 and our adjacent side is negative 3. And when we write it, secant theta would be equal to negative 5 over 3. And so which answer choice matches that? Well, answer choice 1. 2 cannot be right because this is cosine. So we know that is not right. 4 is incorrect because it does not acknowledge that the adjacent side is negative. 3 is incorrect because that is sine theta. And so our answer choice is 1. So through this process of first knowing where our tan theta is located on the unit circle, what secant means, finding the missing side, and then finding the missing hypotenuse, and then plugging into our secant formula, we were able to figure out this question. Now for question number 22. Okay, question number 22 says, to solve the equation 7 divided by x plus 7 plus 4x divided by x minus 7 equals 3x plus 7 over x minus 7, Joanne's first step is to multiply both sides by the least common denominator. Which statement is true? So if we're multiplying by the least common denominator, what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite our equation. So when we rewrite our equation, the least common denominators are going to be the denominators that we see are common. Well, the denominators that we see are common are x plus 7 and x minus 7. And we know that the goal of the common denominator is to what? Eliminate the denominators. And we're going to do that for all three parts. So this part is going to get x plus 7, x minus 7. This part is going to get x plus 7, x minus 7. And I already wrote it for this part. To cancel out the denominators, we're going to do the common. So x plus 7, bye-bye. This one says x minus 7, so x minus 7, x minus 7. This one says x minus 7. Take off the x minus 7, take off the x minus 7. Then we distribute. So 7 times x minus 7 plus 4x times x plus 7 equals 3x plus 7 times x plus 7. And if we distribute, that's 7x minus 49 plus 4x squared plus 28x is equal to 3x squared plus 21x plus 7x plus 49. And if we simplify all of that, we're going to get 4x squared plus 35x minus 49 is equal to 3x squared plus 28x plus 49. And so after that, we need to find the solutions to the equation. And so solutions would be the x values that would make both equations true, make both equations correct. So in order to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to go into our calculators again. So we're going to go to y equals, we're going to type in the first equation. So 4x squared plus 35x minus 49 into y1. y2 is going to be 3x squared plus 28x plus 49. And graph. And so they're going to graph both equations. Then what you're going to do, you see, you're going to go to second window. You're going to go to independence. And instead of it saying auto, you're going to change it to ask. Why we're changing it to ask is because I want to use the answer choices. We know that they're giving us three solutions: -14, 7, and -7. So I changed from independent, I made it ask. Dependent, I kept it auto. So that means that we're changing the x, we're putting in what x that we want, and dependent, we're keeping it the same. Then you're going to do second graph. You get your table of values. So you write in -14, 7, and -7. And we look and see, well, where are they the same? Well, at -14, they both have the value of 245. And at 7, 392. But at point -7, there is no solution. So obviously, we can eliminate answer choice 2 because we know -7 is not even a solution. So it can't even be extraneous because it doesn't exist. Now, well, many people would be tempted to say, well, there is no extraneous solutions. But this is why it's important to check the conditions, to recheck your work. If I take in 7 as a value of x and I plug into 4x divided by x minus 7, that's going to be 4 times 7 over 7 minus 7, which is 28 over 0. But I can't do that because it's undefined. So that means that this solution is extraneous. Because if I put 7 in the base of either 4x divided by x minus 7 or 3x plus 7 divided by x minus 7, I'm going to get an undefined answer. meaning that it's an extraneous solution. So which statement is true? Statement number 3. 7 is an extraneous solution. Negative 14 works because if I plug in negative 14, I'm going to be able to continue through the problem. However, 7 does not work because it is extraneous. Okay, up to the last 2 questions in the multiple choice section. So question number 23 says, beginning July 1st, 2019, Michelle deposited $250 into an account that yields 0.15% each month. She continued to make $250 deposit into the account on the first of each month for 3 years. Which expression represents the amount of money that was in the account after her last deposit was made on June 1st, 2022? So, reading this problem, we realize that this is a geometric series. Why, you may ask? Because she is constantly depositing $250 on her account the first of each month for 3 months. So she's doing this consecutively. The first of each month for over 3 years, she's doing the same thing. So we're trying to find the summation of what her deposit amount would be, what amount of money would be in her account after she made her last deposit on June 1st, 2022. And so we know it's going to be a geometric series question. And we know that the formula for geometric sequence, and if we forgot, remember that it's in our reference table, is going to be Sn equals A1 minus A1 Rn over 1 minus R. Okay, so what is our A1? Well, we know that A1, before we even plug it in, we know we have to eliminate answer choice 1 and 2 because why? It does not represent a geometric series. We know that first year, 250. The second year, it's 250, but that 250 also is 0.15% plus the 250 that she had already in her account. So we're adding that consecutively. Answer choice 2 does not do that. Even if it does the 3 years into the 36th month, that is still not the right amount because, well, it's not adding the 250 that she has been adding to each of her years because she starts out with 250. The next year she has 250 plus that 250 times the interest rate. And so that changes every single year. So we know 1 and 2 are eliminated. Now we're in between 3 and 4. Even if we don't solve 3 and 4, we know our answer choice has to be number 4. Why, you may ask? This says 3 years. This says 36 months. If we do the 3 years, it's the same thing. It does not interpret it as 3 years. It's technically saying 3 months because there is an error of reading the question. It's saying that she's been doing this for the first of each month for 3 years. If it's 3 years, it's 36 months. If we do this 3, it doesn't incorporate the years. So instead, we have to convert it into month because she's doing it the first of each month for 3 years. Okay? So if we were to write our geometric series, if this was a open response question, S of n, we know that A1 is 250 minus A1, so that's 250. Our rate is 1 plus 0.0015 to the n we know is 36 months divided by 1 minus our rate. So that would be our number 24. Now number 24. So number 24 says, a study of the red-tailed hawk population in a given area shows the population HT can be represented by the function HT equals 51.19t, where t represents the number of years since the study began. In terms of the monthly rate of growth, the population can be best approximated by the function, and then we find out answer. So right now, the function HT equals 51.19t is using t as years. And if I wanted to convert t into month, well, I know that I'm going to have to multiply by 12. So HT is going to be 50 times 1.1912t. So I'm doing the 12t. So I can eliminate answer choices 2 and 4. But our rate cannot remain the same. Because if I'm changing that I'm doing it monthly instead of maybe yearly, this is not accurate. Even if I didn't do any math, this cannot be accurate. Because how is the growth of something that happens over years the same as something that is changing monthly? So we know answer choice can't be 3. It's going to have to be answer choice 1. If you were to do this mathematically, if we were to think of this, and we would do it as this 1.19 is for 1 year. But if you want like a 12th of a year to like represent the month, we do 1.19 to the 1 over 12. We're going to get 1.0146, which roughly equals 1.015, which would give us this rate of growth for number answer choice 1. And with that, we have concluded the multiple choice section of the Algebra 2 Regents January 2024. Because this video is now over 30 minutes long, I'm going to cut the video here, and please stay tuned for part 3, hopefully the last part, while I will be going over the free response questions parts 2, 3, and 4. And if you have any questions, please leave comments down below, and I'll be sure to reach out again and answer any questions that you have. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Share with all your friends so we can get more viewers, more subscribers, so I can continue releasing amazing content. And have a great day. Bye.